Have you ever heard of a woman so beautiful that even the elders warned, "Be careful, beauty can hide secrets"? This is the story of a man and his wife, a love that began pure but carried a darkness no one expected. In the quiet village of Umuk, there lived a strong hunter. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and known across the land for his skill with bow and spear. Every morning before he left for the forest, he would take red palm oil paint and draw fine patterns across his wife's face. It was their little ritual of love. She was beautiful beyond words, dark skin glowing like polished wood, bright eyes that shone like morning stars, and a smile that made men forget their troubles. The hunter loved her with all his heart. But there was something strange about her. Each evening, when he returned from the forest, the face paint would be gone. Not smudged. Not faded. Completely gone, as if washed away by unseen hands. At first, he believed her when she said, "My husband, it is the stream. Each time I fetch water, it wipes everything away." But as the days turned into weeks, his mind began to turn restless. Other women went to the same stream, yet their paint remained until night. Why was his wife different? The hunter's heart grew heavy with suspicion. One morning, he took his time, carefully painting the brightest red and black marks across her cheeks and forehead. He looked her in the eyes and said softly, "When I return, let me still see these marks. Do not allow the stream to take them away again." She smiled gently, her eyes glowing with something he could not understand. "I promise," she said, kissing his forehead. That day, the hunter did not go far. He carried his spear and pretended to enter the forest, but instead, he hid himself among the thick bushes near the stream. His heart beat fast as he crouched low, waiting. Moments later, he saw her. She came walking gracefully, balancing a clay pot on her head, her wrapper tied firmly around her waist, beads shining on her neck. But her eyes were restless, and her steps too quick, as if she was rushing to meet someone. She reached the riverbank, set the pot down, and looked around carefully. Then, with calm movements, she removed her wrapper, stood bare in the morning light, and raised her hands toward the water. The hunter's eyes widened. His chest pounded like a drum. The river began to glow faintly, ripples spreading across its surface. She whispered into the water, her voice sweet but strange, "My love, come out. I am here." The hunter's breath caught in his throat. His wife, calling another "my love." The calm stream shook, bubbles rising from the deep. A dark shadow moved beneath the water, growing larger and larger. Something, or someone, was coming out. The river broke open with a sound like thunder, though the sky above was clear. The water foamed, and a figure rose from the depths. At first, it looked like a man, strong and broad-chested. But from his waist downward, his body was a long serpent tail, black and shiny, dripping with water. His eyes glowed golden, sharp like fire in the dark. His voice rumbled low, carrying power. The hunter's breath caught. His wife was smiling. Not in fear, not in surprise, but in joy. She stretched out her arms. "My love," she whispered. The serpent coiled forward, wrapping his tail gently around her waist. The touch was not violent, but possessive, as if she belonged to him. She laughed softly, the sound echoing like music mixed with a hiss. The hunter's heart burned. His spear trembled in his hand. Jealousy clawed at him. He wanted to leap out and strike, but his body would not move. His legs felt heavy, his chest full of stones. The serpent lowered his face to hers. Their lips touched in a kiss. The river behind them glowed brighter, shimmering as if the moon had fallen into it. The hunter whispered to himself, "So it is true. She lied. She is not mine alone." But just as he tried to breathe quietly, a branch cracked under his foot. The serpent froze. His golden eyes turned toward the forest. His tongue flicked out, tasting the air. The hunter's heart raced. Sweat ran down his back. He pressed deeper into the bush, praying silently that he would not be seen. The serpent's eyes narrowed. "Someone is watching us," he said in a low voice. The woman touched his face gently. "No," she whispered. "No one dares to follow me here. You are the only one I belong to." But the serpent was not convinced. His coils tightened around her, his head lifting high, scanning the forest. The hunter's chest pounded like a drum. He whispered, "What do I do now? Should I run, or should I fight?" And before I tell you what the serpent saw next, let me pause here. Stories like this are full of dangerous secrets, hidden truths, and twists you will never expect. If you are enjoying this tale and want to see the shocking end, make sure you subscribe now so you don't miss what happens next. Because from this moment, the story will only grow darker. Now, let's continue. The serpent leaned closer to the forest, his golden eyes glowing brighter. The hunter felt his grip on the spear weaken. If the creature came any closer, his secret would be discovered. But before anything happened, the woman's laughter cut through the air. "Come back to me," she said. "Ignore the wind." The serpent hesitated, but slowly, his eyes turned back to her. He hissed softly, lowering his head, but the suspicion in his gaze did not fade. The hunter, still hiding, let out a shaky breath. He thought he was safe. But the river behind them glowed again, brighter than before, and the woman's skin began to shimmer strangely, as though scales were appearing beneath her flesh. The hunter's mouth opened in silent shock. His wife was changing. The hunter could not believe what his eyes were showing him. His wife's skin was glowing, as though fireflies were dancing beneath it. Then, slowly, the glow turned into something else. Tiny scales, black and silver, spread across her arms and shoulders. He wanted to blink, but his eyes refused to close. It was as if fear had locked his body. Her laughter echoed strangely, no longer soft and gentle. It carried a hiss, a sound that made the hunter's blood run cold. The serpent leaned close to her, his coils tightening around her waist. He lowered his head and whispered something in a language the hunter had never heard before. But to his shock, his wife answered back in the same tongue. Her voice was deep, not the voice he had known since their wedding day. His spear shook in his hand. He thought of their wedding, the day the village celebrated, the elders blessing them with long life and many children. That same woman, who once danced in the square with him, was now changing before his very eyes into something not human. His chest burned with questions. Who is this woman? Did I marry a wife, or did I marry a creature of the river? What about our children, are they human, or are they something else? The serpent's golden eyes flashed again. He raised his head high, tongue flicking. There is someone watching, he hissed. The woman placed her hand on his chest. No, she said softly. No one is foolish enough to come here. Only you and I. But the serpent did not move. His eyes scanned the forest carefully. The hunter's body stiffened. He pressed his face into the soil, holding his breath. If he made even the smallest sound, he would be caught. The serpent's coils brushed the ground as he moved closer to the bushes. The noise of his scales sliding against the sand sent shivers through the hunter's bones. Suddenly, crack! A dry stick broke under the hunter's foot. The serpent hissed loudly, turning toward the sound. The golden eyes glowed brighter, piercing into the shadows where the hunter was hidden. The hunter's grip on his spear tightened. His heart pounded like a drum inside his chest. He knew, if the serpent came any closer, he would have to choose, fight or die. The serpent turned sharply toward the bush. His golden eyes glowed like burning firewood, and his tongue flicked out again and again, tasting the air. The sound of his hiss roared across the river like thunder. The hunter's heart slammed against his chest. Sweat poured down his face as he pressed himself flat against the ground. His spear felt heavy in his hand. The serpent moved closer, claws brushing against the sand with a low scraping sound. Dry leaves cracked under his weight. Every sound was loud in the hunter's ears. From the water, the woman called out, her voice soft but dangerous, "Ikenna, my love, leave it. You are wasting your strength. No one is here." But the serpent did not stop. His head lifted higher, his golden eyes shining brighter, searching the bushes. The hunter closed his eyes for a moment, whispering in his heart, "Chinik, if this is my end, let me die as a man." Then, suddenly, the silence broke. A bird flew out of the very bush where he was hiding, flapping its wings wildly into the air. The serpent hissed and struck at the bush with his tail, smashing the grass flat. The hunter rolled quickly to the side, pressing deeper into the shadows. His chest pounded. He was only a finger's breadth away from being crushed. The serpent raised his head again, hissing. But this time, after a long pause, he turned back to the woman. His coils slid back into the water, wrapping around her waist. "You are right," the serpent said coldly. "Perhaps it was only the wind." The woman smiled, her serpent-like eyes glowing faintly. She touched his face and whispered, "Come back to me. Ignore the forest. Only I am here." The hunter bit his lip until it bled, his heart twisted with pain. She is his queen, he thought. Not mine. She was never mine. The river began to glow again, brighter than before. The serpent pulled her close, and together they sank slowly into the water. Ripples spread wide across the stream, then everything became calm. The hunter stayed still, trembling. He thought it was over. But then a voice echoed from beneath the water, deep and cold, like a drum from the underworld, "Whoever hides in the bush, we will find you." The hunter's blood froze. His spear almost slipped from his hand. The hunter did not move from the bush for a long time. His body was stiff, his hands still clutching the spear. The river was quiet again, but the warning voice still echoed in his ears, "Whoever hides in the bush, we will find you." His heart thudded so hard he thought it might break his ribs. Slowly, he crawled backward, careful not to snap another branch. His legs trembled like yam leaves in the wind. When he was far enough from the river, he ran. He ran through the forest, branches whipping against his face, until he reached the path back to the village. His chest heaved, sweat dripping down his back. By the time he arrived home, the sun was already high. His children ran to him, but he pushed them aside gently, too broken to speak. He went inside, dropped his spear on the floor, and sat in silence. The children looked at him with worry. "Papa, are you hurt?" one asked. But he only shook his head. His eyes were far away, staring into a place they could not see. That evening, his wife returned from the stream. She smiled as if nothing had happened. She carried her pot of water on her head, her wrapper tied neatly, her face glowing like always. "Welcome, my husband," she said sweetly. "Did the hunt go well?" The hunter's chest tightened. He wanted to scream, "I saw you. I know your secret." But the words stuck in his throat. He only nodded slowly, unable to meet her eyes. At night, as they lay together, he kept his back turned to her. He could not sleep. His ears listened to her breathing, steady and calm. But in his mind, he heard the hiss of a serpent. Days passed. The secret weighed heavily on him. He stopped eating well, stopped speaking much, and the children noticed. One night, he dreamt of the river. He saw glowing eyes beneath the water, staring at him. The voice returned, "We will find you." He woke in a sweat, clutching his chest. His wife stood beside him, asking softly, "What troubles you?" He looked at her, and for a moment, in the dim moonlight, he thought he saw scales shimmer across her skin. He blinked, and they were gone. His hands shook. His heart whispered, "If I do nothing, this secret will destroy me. But if I speak, what will happen to me, and my children?" As dawn broke, the hunter knew his life would never be the same again. And then, On that very morning, something strange happened to his children at the stream. The morning sun had only just climbed the hills when the hunter's children took their clay pots and walked toward the stream. They laughed and skipped along the narrow path, their voices bright like little birds. But when they reached the water, something strange happened. The stream was calm at first, clear enough for them to see the smooth stones at the bottom. They bent down to fill their pots. But then, their reflections in the water began to change. The boy frowned. "Sister, look. Do you see what I see?" The girl gasped. "It is not us. Look. Look at our faces." In the water, their reflections were not the same as their real selves. The eyes in the reflection glowed faintly gold, just like the serpent's eyes. Their skin shimmered with tiny scales that did not exist on their bodies. The children stumbled backward, fear gripping their small hearts. The boy's pot fell into the water with a splash. At that very moment, the water rippled and a voice echoed, soft but deep, "You are ours, you cannot run from the river." The children screamed and held each other tightly. They wanted to flee, but their feet felt heavy, rooted to the ground. The water began to glow. A shadow moved beneath, just like the day their father had seen. The boy pulled his sister's hand. "We must go. Papa must hear this." But before they could run, the water rose suddenly in a wave. The girl cried out, "Mama," without even knowing why. And then, something broke the surface. It was not the serpent himself, but something smaller. Two snake-like forms, thin and dark, rose from the stream. Their bodies shimmered with the same scales the children had seen in their reflections. The children froze. Their hands shook, their eyes wide. The snake hissed softly, almost as if calling them by name. The boy pulled his sister again, and this time they ran. They ran so fast their feet barely touched the ground, pots forgotten, hearts pounding like drums. When they reached home, they burst into the hut, gasping for breath. "Papa! Papa!" they cried. "Something is in the stream. It spoke to us. It called us its own." The hunter's chest tightened. He dropped a piece of wood he was holding and rushed to them. "What do you mean?" he asked, fear heavy in his voice. The girl's lips trembled. "Papa, our faces, they changed in the water." The hunter staggered backward. His knees grew weak. His worst fear was now before him. He whispered to himself, "The blood of the serpent runs in them." But just as the words left his mouth, a shadow moved outside the hut. The children stopped crying. The hunter froze. Something, or someone, was standing at the doorway. The hunter's heart pounded as the shadow stood still at the doorway. The children clung to him tightly, their small hands gripping his wrapper. The fire in the corner of the hut flickered, making the figure outside look taller and more frightening. For a moment, no one moved. The hut was silent except for the sound of the children's heavy breathing. Then the shadow stepped inside. It was the wife. She walked in slowly, balancing her water pot on her head, her smile calm, her wrapper tied neatly around her waist. She looked at them one by one, her eyes resting longest on the children. "My husband," she said softly, "why do the children cry? Who has harmed them?" The hunter's hands trembled. He wanted to shout, "You have harmed them, you and the serpent." But his lips would not move. His throat felt dry, his tongue heavy. The children buried their faces in his chest, refusing to look at her. She set the pot down and moved closer. "Why are you afraid of me?" she asked gently. But in the dim firelight, her eyes glimmered faintly, as if golden sparks were hidden in them. The hunter stood up slowly, his spear in his hand. "Stay where you are," he said, his voice shaking. The smile on her lips faded. "Why do you look at me with such anger, my husband?" He swallowed hard. "Because I know the truth. I know what you are. And now, the children know too." The wife's eyes narrowed. She did not speak. Instead, she looked down at the children, who clung to their father even tighter. Then, with a voice low and calm, she said, "The river calls its own. They cannot run forever." The hunter stepped back, pulling his children with him. "They are not yours," he said firmly. "They are mine." A silence fell. Then, suddenly, the wind outside rose, whistling through the cracks of the hut. The fire flickered wildly, throwing strange shadows on the walls. The woman's hair lifted slightly, as if unseen hands were moving it. The children screamed, hiding their faces. The hunter raised his spear, pointing it at her. His voice cracked, "If you try to take them, I will fight you." Her lips curled into a faint smile. "Fight me. Or fight the river." And then, just as the words left her mouth, the clay pot she had set down shattered by itself. Water spilled across the hot floor, glowing faintly in the firelight. The glow spread wider and wider until it looked like a stream was flowing inside their home. The hunter's eyes widened. The children screamed louder. From the glowing water on the floor, a hiss rose. Something was coming out. The hunter's eyes grew wide as the glowing water spread across the mud floor. It shone like moonlight trapped in a stream, yet it flowed where no stream should be. The children clung to him, crying, "Papa! Papa! The river is here." He pulled them closer, raising his spear. "Stay behind me," he whispered. His heart pounded, his body shaking, but he refused to step back. The woman stood calmly, her hands folded in front of her. Her lips curved into a faint smile as the water crept toward her feet. The glow made her face look both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Then came the hiss. It was low at first, like wind slipping through grass, but it grew louder until it filled the whole hut. The glowing water rippled. From it rose two small serpent-like figures, their bodies dark, their scales shining silver. They moved side by side, swaying like dancers. The children screamed, "Snakes! Snakes!" But the woman raised her hand. "No," she said softly, "they are not snakes. They are your brothers." The hunter staggered back, almost dropping his spear. "What madness is this?" he shouted. "They are monsters." Her golden eyes glimmered. "No, my husband. They are children of the river. They share the same blood as yours. Look closely." The serpents hissed and slithered closer. The children pressed against their father, trembling. But as the serpents reached the glow, their forms flickered. For a moment, their faces looked human, two small boys with golden eyes, their skin shimmering faintly with scales. The hunter's chest tightened. His grip on the spear shook. The children gasped. "Papa, they look like us." The woman nodded slowly. "Yes. They are your blood. The river calls to all of you. You cannot deny it." The hunter roared, "Enough." He raised the spear high, ready to strike at the glowing water. But just before he thrust it down, a deep voice rose from the water, louder than thunder, "If you strike your own blood." The spear froze in his hand. His eyes widened. The children clung tighter, crying louder. The glow grew brighter, filling every corner of the hut. Shadows danced wildly on the walls. The woman's face shone with strange light.
And then, from within the glowing stream, another shadow began to rise. Bigger, darker, more powerful than the small serpents. The hut shook as the shadow rose from the glowing water. The children screamed, hiding their faces in their father's waist wrapper. The hunter stood firm, spear in hand, though his knees trembled. From the water, the serpent emerged, taller and larger than before, his coils thick as tree trunks, his golden eyes burning like fire. The air grew heavy, filled with the sound of hissing. The woman stood calmly by his side, her body half shimmering with scales, her smile strange and proud. My king, she whispered, bowing slightly. The hunter's chest burned with rage. You are no wife of mine. You are a curse. He raised his spear high and shouted, Leave my house! Leave my children. The serpent's deep voice filled the hut. Your children are ours. They carry our blood. You cannot keep them from the river. The children cried louder, clinging to their father. The hunter tightened his grip on them, shouting, They belong to me. They are mine. The serpent hissed, coiling higher, his shadow covering the walls. His golden eyes locked on the hunter. Then fight, hunter. Fight for them. The hunter charged, thrusting his spear forward with all his strength. The serpent struck with lightning speed, tail crashing against the spear. The weapon snapped in two. The hunter fell backward, the children screaming. The serpent towered over him, ready to strike. Then, suddenly, the girl cried out, Papa! She ran forward, standing between her father and the serpent. Her small hands glowed faintly in the light, just like the water. Her brother stood beside her, trembling but brave. The serpent paused. His golden eyes softened. You see, they are of the river. They are ours. The hunter crawled forward, wrapping his arms around his children. No, he whispered through tears. They are mine. I will never give them to you. The hut shook harder, the glow brighter, the hissing louder. Then the woman stepped forward, her voice calm but cold. Husband, your fight is useless. You can't change blood. You can't fight the river. Her skin shimmered completely now, her body lengthening. Before their eyes, she shed the last of her human form, transforming fully into a serpent, coils wrapping around the serpent king. The hunter wept bitterly. His wife was gone forever. The serpent hissed one final warning. If you try to stop them from their destiny, the river will consume you. With that, the water rose, wrapping the serpents in light. In a flash, they vanished, leaving only silence. The glow faded. The hut was dark again. The hunter held his children close, his tears falling on their heads. He whispered, Chukwu, give me strength to protect them, even if the blood of the serpent calls to them. Outside, the night was silent, but deep within the river, golden eyes glowed once more. The story ends here, but the river never forgets.